All right, all right. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the premiere of the Crucible Leader podcast. I'm your host, Hurricane H, and throughout my career in executive leadership, healthcare, entrepreneurship, media, I've had the privilege of working with remarkable leaders who have shaped industries, inspired people, and transformed organizations. One thing I've learned is that leadership isn't defined by the title, it's defined by the decisions we make, the people we influence, and the legacy we leave behind. That's exactly why we created this show. And I say we because joining me is someone whose career has spanned global business leadership, innovation, corporate transformation, executive coaching, and he has advised organizations and leaders around the world and brings decades of practical experience to every conversation. Please join me in welcoming my co host, Geoff Hudson-Searle. Jeff, welcome to
Hey,
our new venture here, my brother.
this is a real pleasure. This is an honor, actually, Hurricane, to be with you. It's great. I'm really, really excited about having this conversation with you today. So, yeah, absolutely awesome. So, thank you for inviting me. And yeah,
Well,
excited.
I'm not inviting you. This is our show now. So this is not
Our
this is
show.
not you.
Okay.
This is our show, man. This is a double, we have a double impact show series with my co-host John, and this is another double impact, I would say, or double what do you call double jeopardy, whatever you want to call this.
Let's stay
Yeah.
away from the double jeopardy, right?
well,
Great
well, well,
movie, by the way. Great movie. Great
I
movie.
know, a good movie. But you know what it is, right? This is a typical show where we're gonna talk anything business, you name it, we're gonna
You
discuss
got
it.
it.
And before I get into my piece of it, obviously this is what I do now and part of what I do. But let's get the audiences to know you, Jeff, because you're amazing, man. And we've met, we're doing some stuff on the vaccine here, in the marketplace here. But what we want to talk about is your amazing journey in the corporate world, in the entrepreneur world. I mean, you've what is it, 121 countries that you've actually operated in.
Yeah,
So let's
yeah.
talk about all that, man.
Sure thing. So, look, my the beginning of my career was I wanted to be Royal Air Force, and I wanted to be a Royal Air Force pilot, but they offered me engineering, and somehow I ended up in the bank. I worked for Citibank. I was head of corporate finance, officer of the bank. Really enjoyed that. I was doing hundreds of millions worth of lending at that time to the corporate marketplace directly through an insurance vertical. I then did 10 years around the world, launching Fortune 100 brands, some of the biggest brands in telecom, IT, at the beginning of IT at that time, and of course in video gaming and virtual world. Well, that was kind of fun. Then went back to the corporate suite. I did some. I was the CEO of a company called MMT in the US, running 12 countries in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I then went to Russia with the big Kaspersky. I launched them into America back in its day. Came back to London, ended up in China for a while with the Wartsala Group, doing restructuring and program management out of China, and then Ford of Europe and doing strategy back in the day. And then I went back to corporate. I was the CEO of an AIM-listed PLC for a while. And drove that digital bank by the helm. And then after that, RG Group took 5 companies to 3, bought 2 more, and then did a pre-IPO. And that was about 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, I set up the business for the first time. Probably looked at about 700 different businesses now in one form or another. It's all been about growth phase and business transformation in one form or another. I'm very passionate about the business. I'm very passionate about working cross-border, working around the world. I'm a very passionate guy about corporate governance as well. I sit on the board. I have been on the board of 8 different companies in the last 20 years. I'm very passionate about being chairman, very much about being an independent non-executive director, and about strategically supporting and helping companies overcome challenges and drive growth. I'm on the board of 2 companies currently today. One is an Australian, London, Singapore IT company in the metaverse space. And the second, I'm the vice chairman of an organization here in Dubai called the Business Gate. So yeah, I'm an author. I'm an author of 9 books, and my last book was The Trust Paradigm. That's really about one of my deepest passions. The last 30 years, I've been doing extensive research around the world, one form or another, on and around trust and its behaviour patterns within certain countries, demographics, and local to global. And I wrote this book very much based on government trust, business trust, and everyday trust at home, which is just a diminishing subject as we speak today, an eroding subject. I'm also big on an impact and philanthropy. I very much have been around that space. I was the ambassador for Love 146, which is an anti-child trafficking agency. I do have passions around this and believe it's important to give back at times. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And today, sitting in Dubai, I'm here with you on our show, The Crucible Leader, and very excited to have this conversation and dig deep.
I'm laughing, man. You know, you and I, we kind of said that we have about 35 years of experience each, and that's about, what is it, 70 years? I mean, that's over 2/4 of a century. I think we're just gonna make it a century because what you just mentioned here, we can expand it a little bit more, man. That's a lot of stuff. I mean, I didn't even think half of that stuff that you just mentioned, in terms of what when my thought process was putting this together. But frankly, I mean, you had banking, I mean. I think you've touched on almost everything, and 120 is like more than half of the countries in this planet. So it's a pretty how can I say, it's just fantastic. I mean, to have that, and frankly, I mean, this show is really for you guys watching and listening, just to tap into some of what we have over the years learned in our paths. And again, for those of you who are watching, for the first time and who have not seen the Hurricane H, and I'm just going to give a little bit about me. It's not, I can't top, what Geoff just said right now, but so I have been in.
I think you're being modest, Hurricane.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Very
no. That's a fact. I didn't do 121 countries. I can tell you that much. I did write books, so there you go. So you beat me already by 2. But here's the thing, right? So my background is hospitality first. Worked for some of the greatest. I mean, Disney World was one of my first, stops. So I learned quite a bit there. But then, obviously I went to the insurance space. I've done some retails when I was younger. Sales is my passion, public customer service, you name it, that's my thing. And thus, I mean, with the media, it kind of, just an extension of all that as well. But really, I've been into the leadership, roles in the insurance space in the U.S. particularly, and we're talking about the managed care, Medicare, Medicaid, long-term care space, and it is a component of the payer side in the healthcare industries in the U.S., and that's one of the elements. I've also been in the real estate. That's something that was always my passion. It's my secondary thing. I've done it for over 26 years or so. Had a real estate school, so we've done quite a bit of that on that. So that's sales, business, you name it. Real estate is a whole different ballgame by itself. So sales strategy, training, of compliance, operations. These are things that I've done. Martial arts is my other thing. I think I don't think I beat you on that one. I think you've done that too. So I know you did something taekwondo there too. So,
judo.
Judo. Oh man. Oh shit, judo is crazy, man. I mean, judo is like you get thrown by those guys, you're in a mess. I mean,
you are, but when we had coffee the other day, it was amazing. And one of the things we talked about over coffee was I talked to you about indomitable spirit, and I actually think that when you talk about martial arts, you talk about its focus, but the indomitable spirit is transferable. That comes across, and it's like Bob Marley. Do you remember Bob Marley? He once said, when all looks gone and finished, the angels carry you up and they give you the strength to continue. And that's indomitable spirit, my friend.
Nice. See, I told you guys this is the first nugget of the show here. so yeah, these will be the moments where you just want to capture and just take home and apply in live. But really, yeah. So I mean, again, it's we have a very round, background here. I mean, again, talking about boards, I think you mentioned boards. I've been on boards, 3 boards to be exact. Not as many as you, and from not for profit to for profits, and I mean, it takes a lot of energy actually to be on a board. Actually, you're in charge really of the whole whatever that is, because you can make or break a company as a board. You can also like, we always think the CEO runs the show. The CEOs are run by a board, and the board can determine whether the CEO is valuable or not, or viable or not. So it's an interesting place. And so again, we bring in tons of expertise here in the business. And again, for me personally, I've had so many businesses over the years. My first business I started, I was like 19, literally. So, and I've always had that. And but the corporate world was always amazing, because you can make some good money, you get some good career path, there. But also it gives you a lot of structural knowledge, and I'm sure Jeff, you can agree to that. I mean, corporate is a
100%.
very
Yeah.
structured. There's a lot of systematic stuff and
Yeah.
operational stuff that you learn, and it makes you a little bit more of a how can I, like a surgeon. I mean, a sharp. I mean,
Mm.
a very
Laser focused.
exact laser focus. That's exactly the word I was trying to find. You see, we complement each other here. But really, this is again our pilot. For this the Crucible Leader. So you can hear it in the title. We're going to talk about leadership. But I do want to start, Jeff, because you talked about your books, and the last book that I have a
Yeah.
copy
Yeah.
of,
That's good.
Trust.
Mm.
And it is a power book. I mean, I started skimming through it, and it's I mean, you mentioned something about trust in person, in business, in governance. I mean, it's pretty powerful stuff. And trust, I think, is everything. I mean, unfortunately, uh, that's a big topic, and but we can spend few episodes just discussing that. But you know what? We can start today a little bit about the fact of trust. I mean, even us, being here, we have to build some trust and credibility with the audiences, right? So we can start with that. That's why we actually started talking about us and who we are and what's our background, because everybody can say like, well, who the hell are you guys? Well, if you've heard us, you probably know, and you can certainly just Google us or Chat GPT us. I think we're out there. But talking about confidence, I'm sorry, that was funny. But I don't know, but maybe maybe we have to double check that out. But I think we're good with that. But again, so Jeff, let's talk about the concept of trust. I mean, we have plenty of time to talk about leadership and other parts of business aspects, but since that is your latest book, and we can talk about it, we can talk about the components, even the idea behind it. I mean, certainly, something drove you to write about trust in today's age, and there's a lot of stuff going on in this world. So let's talk about that. What was the premise behind it?
Yeah. I think to be honest with you, when I launched it, I mean, back in 2022, I mean, I got very upset with you. You used a word earlier called the concept of trust, and I get a little bit upset when people say concept. It's a bit like you'll see the word trust bandied around the internet, right? Oh, we can solve through big trust methodologies and frameworks and blah blah blah. Let's get it straight. This is a soft skill in an organization, which has become probably the most important aspect of your business. I'll give you an example for that. Yeah, look, transactions on any stock market happen every day, but they don't happen without trust. Okay, marriages, people get married every day, and you're not going to get married to somebody unless you have trust.
Mm,
And our interactions that we have every day are based on fundamentally credibility. You've got to build credibility to then execute on trust. As you execute on trust, you've got outcomes, okay, real tangible outcomes. And when you bring this back to leadership, and leadership for me is, as I said earlier, leadership is in government, leadership is in business, leadership is at home. Every day when decisions have to be made, you're not going to make those decisions without trust. We start looking at leadership, you start saying, well, actually, CEOs are being measured by a new yardstick. It's no longer performance and transactional. I mean, you could put trust into a couple of buckets, really. You could say the world is very much transactional at this moment in time, and that's coming from a 2D. But we need to be in the 5D, because that's when those enriched in collaborations and that enrichment that we have around topics of conversation and outcomes and making impact in the world comes from 5D trust, because we trust. And this has got to be bigger than any other event in the world. For me, we've got all these events that have taken place in the world in the last 5-10 years and beyond. But actually, we've got a bigger problem right now. We got a trust pandemic. And unless we can fix this trust pandemic, this world that we talk about economically, collaboration, and across all the things I talked about, whether it's financial, whether it's business, or whether it's home, are going to decay. And we got a real problem when that happens.
Well, first of all, I don't want you to be upset with me, man. you get upset with them.
Hurricane, that's not going to happen coming from a Cyclone G.
Yeah, by the way, that's just an internal
private
joke.
joke.
Her private joke. I'm Hurricane H and he's Cyclone G. So, but it's funny because again, trust is a powerful word, and yeah, when I refer to it as a concept, just trying to define how to introduce it, but really this is a deep psychological aspect of life when you think about it. I mean, it takes a lot for any entity. Whatever it is, one-on-one, a few people in the company. We talked about board. We talk about CEOs. We talk about governments. I mean, trust is people trusting. Even look, we're by the way, I would say congrats to England for making it to the next turn. I mean, I think they'll be hopefully at the final. Maybe there's an opportunity there, and so but. The world.
I don't want to fox it. I really don't want to. Right now,
I think they had a great run. Listen, they're already in the top place, so hey, why not? But here's the thing. This is a topic of the hour, right? I mean, but there's trust that is being built by nations in these teams, and I mean, people all over the world are looking at these folks that are just. There's a few people that are literally mesmerizing the world with their performance, and there's a huge amount of pressure that's being put on these people. That's a very I would say concrete example of what that trust looks like. Now, what is that? How does that work? Why we put in a trust in some people that we may not even know. I mean, how many people know actually the players in any nation? Maybe a few. They know of them, but they don't know them in person. I mean, not even their family members would probably know enough about those people. So imagine that. So let's talk about what's the psychology behind that. I mean, we're just we believe in these people even though we don't know them, and I think that's a component of trust. Am I wrong, Geoff?
No, you're not wrong. Look, I have worked in 121 countries. When you're traveling 80 times a year on business for 15 years, and I'm averaging 256 jets, I've been in every airport lounge on the planet. You work with culture. Now, what you got to understand is we're not all the same. Okay, you can't put a human being into a box. You can't do that. If you do, you'll suffocate them. You won't allow them to actually be creative, to innovate, and to collaborate. And so when we start looking at really what is the process for trust, and technology is the most amazing thing on the planet, but it's also can be an influencer to actually decaying trust, because the speed of information that we have today is very fast. You're going to read about it online before you've had a chance to even have a human conversation around these subjects 9 times out of 10. And we saw that recently with a very large politician releasing news about another prime minister in another country before he'd actually announced his resignation. So the internet can destroy relationships. You've got the theory of garbage in, garbage out. Unless you've got the right quality of data, in what you're receiving, you can't really make a decision. So then you get to the point of what do we believe? Because everything online is becoming more fake day in, day out. Do I believe this news about this situation or the economy or, these Hollywood stars or whatever? What is it, a conspiracy or what? Where's the substance? Where's the real truth behind the statement? And so when you look at a process of trust, you start looking at, okay, number one, effective listening. Are we listening, or are we just, arrogantly moving through life so fast, so quick, without thinking about what that person said, or more importantly, what that means to you or to societal or to life? Second thing, empathy and compassion. We do a lot of in IBM. We do a lot of empathy mapping, and we work around compassion because we work around human-centered design a lot. Why we do that is because of psychologically safe and well-being matters. We know how important that is, but that is a part of the trust process. And then finally, you come to a level of understanding. And then once you have a bearing of understanding, you can communicate. When you communicate, you build purpose. When you build purpose, you build the bridge to trust. You could actually question our decisions 10 years ago if you didn't follow that process. Because at the end of the day, it's the granular level. I mean, everyone says, I want a meaningful conversation. Well, if you want a meaningful conversation, you need to start listening. You need to have empathy and compassion. You need to have understanding. You need to have communication at the right level. Even though you want to communicate at all levels, communication, how you communicate, and with sensitivity sometimes, is critical to building credibility. I like to use it like the bank account. I like to call it the trust bank account, because at the end of the day, if you do something positive in my life, you've built a credit, right? And I won't forget that. But if you lie to me, or you say something with deception, or you say that's not true, or you say something to hurt me, it creates a negative. In China, funny enough, your mobile phone or smartphone device, at the end of the day, it will say you are moderately trusted, you're trusted in a big way, or you're not trusted at all. And that is something to be fed to you at the end of the day. And I think that probably will happen, because we saw it in London with, is London happy? They used to have the happiness barometer, and it used to say, is London happy today? Is it not happy today? Well, it certainly won't be happy if they don't win the World Cup. But what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, so we have to take notice from all of this, because there is an awful lot of substance around what I'm talking. And the basic of what I'm talking about is, look, in the world today, if you take Dubai as an example, where we're at, we've got people from all over the world here. We've probably got 200 languages being spoken in Dubai every single day. So therefore, we have to accommodate that these people behave differently. They think differently. They have different behaviors and attitudes. They bring large areas of expertise and experience, attributes and beliefs. And we, as a conglomerate, need to accept them and bring them in, because they may have something really important to say. And in organizations, as an example, toxic leadership has been a big subject of discussion. So has narcissism with leadership, because they don't possess the skills. But they won't allow someone at the back of the room to come in and say something, and actually for that leadership to listen and actually maybe use that idea or apply that idea. Because we lack in this world, this technological world of ours, we lack creativity. We've seen it in the law profession. We saw how we could save millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars just by giving an hour back to a senior partner. And why? Because of creativity. But that never goes to creativity. It goes to more work and more billings, right? So creativity and innovation, we're constantly being said, we want to innovate more. We want to be more creative. We want to be able to bring people in. Well, culture is a massive part of having trust as a catalyst within an organization. And the problem is, how committed are we to doing that?
Well, Geoff, I mean, you covered a lot of grounds there. I mean, we can farm out to quite a bit there. I mean, empathy, leadership. I mean, belief. But it's amazing, because you're touching on very powerful points. I mean, by the way, yeah, I love the idea that you travel that frequent around the world. Now, listen, I'm a traveler. I mean, I've been all over maybe like half of this planet already, and so I enjoy traveling. And it's in the travels. As a matter of fact, we have a cultural saying that, you trust people, you learn to trust and know people when you travel with them. That's one, or do business with them, or lend them money, right? So these are the three areas. If you really want to see someone's behavior, you got to do these three things with them, and then you know exactly their character and who they are. But you're right, trust is a big deal today in the social world that we live in, and especially with social media. There's a lot of information. the question, is it trustworthy? What's the source? Do we do enough due diligence to
Yeah.
actually even get to what it is? Because people actually, we hear about fake news. I mean, as our dear Trump would be referring to. I mean, that's his line, right? Fake news. Well, but you know what, is it fake news? Is it real news? I mean,
Yeah.
what's the news? I mean, is news, I mean, we have the saying, no news is good news. So there's all kind of stuff. Now, how do we let ourselves sometimes believe that this is the correct answer, this is the right source, just because, and marketing is a powerful thing, psychology is a huge, people use these things to promote whatever ideologies and concepts, and so people sometimes are just blinded to it, and they say, oh, I follow this no matter what because I believe in them. Now, of course, it might match your own convictions of whatever you have, and therefore you kind of find an attraction to whatever that is. And then you can say that trust. I mean, you mentioned something about relationships. I mean, people marry every day, right? And they're built on
Right.
relationship. How many of those marriages make it past a couple of months, a couple of years? We have a rate right now, 75% of, I think, marriages wind up in divorce. That just shows that, is that a lack of trust, or maybe they just didn't do a good due diligence in the primary stages, right? Business. I mean, I used to have this line that I use in interviews when I talk to someone about a job, and I like them, but I always say this to them up front. So here's what we're gonna do now. I'm willing to take you to the next stage, and we will be engaged. Basically, we're gonna start, an engagement process. That's through your probationary, if you want to call it from an HR perspective. So during that engagement, you get to feel us, we get to feel you, because really, it's another concept I have is that we don't, when you're hiring someone or we're interviewing for a job, you're both interviewing each other. And a lot of candidates sometimes forget that they're also interviewing the company, and they can select whether the company is going to be a good fit or not, and whether they can trust that vision of that company. So there's a lot of factors that go into this concept of trust. Again, don't hit me. This attribute, this deep meaning of trust.
The
But really,
psychology.
the psychology. All right. So the psychology called trust. But really, it is a powerful, element of who we are, right? It's sometimes it's just I meet someone, like, listen, we met each other, we kind of trusted each other to be able to do this together, but we are still kind of new to each other. But there's some indicators sometimes that you feel synergies, you feel some sort of a frequency vibe together, and you can make it work and see where it goes from there. And that's actually what happens in relationships. I mean, people meet, there's a spark, boom. The next thing you know, there's some dating time, there's some maybe engagement time, then there's some marriage. I'm just talking about a general, realm. And the same thing, it goes to companies, friendship. You meet someone. Listen, my best friend, also my partner in our consulting company. We met as literally two candidates for a job. We were actually at a job interview. So he's
Great.
my competition. We both
Yeah.
are jockeying for the same role. Now, we didn't know there was a couple of them, a couple of openings at that time, because I came in recommended by my manager from a different area at the time. He came in from his manager from a different plan. And now here we are. And so we thought that we got the job because we got somebody behind us. And guess what? They actually swapped us. He interviewed with my manager, I interviewed with his. And now I'm looking at him like he's a competition. Shit, I mean, this is bad. And he had a good background too at the time. So here's the thing. He gets the interview. I walk away. He walks away. And a couple of weeks later, we're sitting at orientation together. I'm like, oh, you made it. You made it. And trust me, from that moment, that's 30 plus years ago, we've been buddies. We've been partners in multiple businesses.
Amazing.
I've attended his wedding. I've seen his kids grown and marry and even have grandkids. So literally, it's that kind of thing. Now, but at that moment, I didn't trust him. He didn't trust me. It's a built, it's a work in progress, as we say, right? And that's the thing. But the same thing, companies. I mean, we trust brands to do the right thing. We trust doctors. With our own, the best thing we own is health. And how do we
Sure.
do that? Is it just because we have no choice? We do have a choice. We could pick whoever we want to. I mean, there's a lot of doctors. There's a lot of clinics. There's a lot of pharmacies. But we go to someone. We trust our lawyers sometimes. If we need a lawyer, an accountant. So it's a very huge thing. We trust our, writers. I mean, you're a writer. The books are information that's being given to us, right?
Yeah.
And
100%.
it's information that's coming from you. Now, I read the book. I can, have a tendency to like what you have and feel the same. Sometimes I may not. But at the end of the day, it's almost like I love what you said. It's a psychology thing. It fits in a
But I
place in our
think we've
brains.
got to be I'd really like to unpack this with you, Hurricane. A couple of things, right? So, fake news, right? People don't realize the social impact and the damage of falsely reporting journalism to the world, right? To the world. As you know, we've been through a couple of events recently in the region, and there was a lot of distaste within some of the journalist reviews around this. And then what you do is society pulls back. They put the mindset from the psychology pulls back. What people would normally do is take a leap of faith, because a leap of faith is why entrepreneurs exist today. They take risks, and I don't think risk is a risk in the way the world thinks it's a risk. There's always the risk of not doing something, and there's the risk of doing something very positive. So for me, risk is reward, risk is culture. So when you actually think about that from a psychology point of view, the negative impact is you do nothing. And I can't remember who was the famous person that said it, that said that actually the worst thing you can do in life is being quicksand, because that's the risk of doing nothing rather than doing the risk of something and having a legacy with whatever you create. So I think the second part of that is, I believe that if you can build resilience, okay, we build resilience, but we're actually building more trust. Now I have worked with some of the biggest architects in the trust world. You think about Stephen Covey, you think about Simon Sinek, you think about Patrick Lencioni. And actually, I still like to put myself and Mark Herbert actually in that bracket, because we have not just studied from a theory, or as you would say, concept. We've actually studied this, and the reason why we wrote the trust paradigm was because of real experiential outcomes. We have trust models. We have lived the experience, and the reason why we wrote the book was to help people build societal in a bigger, stronger way. Because when you hold back from making decisions, you cause a ripple effect in the world. And what you do is you go by referral. Oh, John knows Geoff, so go and speak to Geoff, rather than actually I wouldn't mind being more speculative around this and getting ideas and inputs from a bigger amount of people, because I want broader perspectives. No, you go like that and you bring it right back to a narrow way of thinking. Well, sooner or later, that has a consequence economically. That has a consequence from local to global collaboration. That has a consequence for supply chain. That has a consequence for each and every one of us and how we make decisions broadly. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, Geoff, there's something that's powerful that you just covered there, is that the idea that distrust, psychology, not concept. We got to drill this, guys, until people get this. This is gonna be a fun discussion. Who's gonna have the pulse of your court, bro? but here's the thing, right? So there's something called about. You talked about the events that happened, for example, in the UAE and this region, right? And the fake news and the non-ethical news, I would say. People want to sell. I mean, we have that old saying in media that says, "If it leads, it bleeds." Right? I mean, if it bleeds, it leads, rather. And it's what people want. They want more sales. They want more, viewership. More followers today with the social media word, right? And that's all this. There are people that actually just go on to catch on anything. I mean, whether it's a football game or soccer game or war, whatever, and they just keep talking and just flaming things to get more attraction and stuff. But so you talk about ethics as a principle. And also principles in general. I mean, you have to have principles, to operate in this world correctly. And those principles can vary. Someone who has a real, ethical background, that they see things. And a good example, I mean, we are in a media platform. This is a radio, and, it's the MEIBC Network, so it's our network. But it was designed with a mission to bring information. I call it the informative and resourceful network. It's not news. We don't do news. We don't do any of the hype. It's positive media. I want information to come from experts. So when I bring someone, we actually vet out that guest and we actually talk to them, because we feel that there's something that's going to be valuable to people. And so the premise is that these programs for the last 7 going to 8 next year is the vision and the mission that we bring in real information, so people can trust that they're going to get something from us that is valid. Now, we don't promise it's accurate 100%, because here's the thing.
Sure.
I don't know what's going on out there, but the guests, we vet them, and we bring multiple guests from different angles. So I can have one from this side of the spectrum of ideology and the other one from this ideology, as long as they are still not crossing the line where it becomes, disrespectful to anything, right, or anyone. And then it's up to the people to make that judgment and really juice up, take whatever they want, extract what they need, and figure out their own way of things. But that's something that you build. I don't want to bring something into this where people's like they're going to lose trust in our information, in our messaging, in our stuff. They know that if they're going to listen to us today, for example, this show, you're going to get the juice. You're going to get the real thing. Whatever we know, and that makes sense, that we feel that it should be shared and that's going to be valuable to you, we're going to bring it to you. And yeah, sometimes people may hear something they may not agree with. That's a great thing. We can agree to disagree, right? But the idea is information is available, but it's you have to have principle. There are things, for example, in the influence world today, we hear, and that's why you have a lot of this stuff that you said about fake news and people just saying whatever, because it's all driven by profits. I can sell anything for profit, even my soul. And that's we see that happening all the time, sadly. And so that's where the psychology, the idea of having a trustworthy relationship with anything becomes a questionable thing, because you don't know about whoever is presenting that information to you until you kind of vet them out. And that vetting process can take years, months, depends. I mean, depends on what happens and how you see it. And we see this, like a lot of people sometimes eventually like, oh, this is BS. This source is not solid. This is not a good thing. You can see it also. You mentioned something about leaders in a company. I mean, you have to trust your leaders in the company to listen. I believe in one concept as a leader myself in my departments. My people, if I don't lie to my people, I tell them the truth, even if we have policy. Sure. Like, listen, sometimes you're put in a position where decisions are being made that can be detrimental to the operations or whatever. But I try to kind of bring that to my team in a way that they understand where we are, they understand the ramifications of what we're doing or not doing, so they can be part of that big picture. So they know if something's gonna come down, they know that we all are responsible. So I don't hide things from them. I kind of introduce the idea in my own way. I don't tell them, oh, listen, we're going to be, terminated because this company is going to close. We're going to say, like, if we don't do our job, if we don't make it to the next stage, there may be a chance that there's going to be some discussion that's going to be tough on all of us. Something people trust that you are not hiding from them, or you're not going to, do them dirty. And that's really the problem. And so you want to build, something where people can see you for an honorable source. And I think trust and honor are very tight together. Is that something that
what you're touching on there is integrity. And so integrity comes from that transparency and that openness. And actually, funny enough, an author that I know very well, very, very close friend of mine, is someone called Carl Honor. And so Carl Honor wrote the book In the Praise of Slow. So he really brought in the slow movement. And he's the next investment banker that went on this mission to help the world and support the world around, look, don't do 100 things. Don't try and touch 100 things. And if you look at generational behavior, and there's another problem with trust there, because you've got generational behavior, you've got the Gen Zs, you've got the millennials, and you've got us, and so forth. And then what happens is that interconnectedness breakdown between, I don't want to have a conversation, I don't want to have a cup of coffee with you. Well, they wouldn't survive in the Middle East if you didn't actually have that FaceTime. But they've got their focus on the way they want to behave, right? And then you've got, which actually I laugh at, because they spend more time on Instagram or TikTok, and you may have heard of Lisa Petrel, who wrote How Not to Sleep with Your Smartphone. And so she's a professor on that from Harvard Business School, and amazing, because she did a test experiment, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, well, prove it to me, show me." But she did show you, because she went into KPMG, I think it was in Boston, and working with the New York office, and she actually said, "Right, give me your smartphones." They said, what? No, give me your smartphones. She created communication, trust, and collaboration. And she actually put 20% on their bottom line in 3 months, right? So she's not that stupid. Actually, she's super genius. super bright in that regard. And so when we start to talk about this, and we start to talk about the trust aspect, you're right when we start talking about leadership. And I think we have come into a trusted era, right? But I think that trusted era is about learning and development and sharing. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that because I think that's an incredibly important subject. I mean, my company, IBM Group, and my head of strategy in particular, we launched a product about 2 months ago, called, funny enough, the Crucible Leader, believe it or not. And the strength of that product is about supporting senior management teams to develop and grow tomorrow's business, right? And the importance of that. Look, everyone around the world culturally has got a different way of leading. We understand that. But what you're not really considering is that geopolitically and the macroeconomics, okay, and more importantly, the way trust, as I said earlier, CEOs are being measured by a new yardstick, right? That new yardstick is strengthening, supporting, growing knowledge and overcoming those obscene, aggressive, disruptive challenges that we do have, and to take a company into positive growth and development. And that is not going to happen without trust and without culture and without true leaders that have got grit, that have got resiliency, and have got the ability to grow. No, there's no excuses of staying the same. Because you stay the same, you go into quicksand, right? You talk to any, I've worked with the military. You work with the US military in particular. You work with SEAL Team 6, SEAL Team 2. Yeah, no, standing still is not an option. Team, honor, respect, collaboration, growth, development, and growth. So I think learning, we're in the learning area. People want to learn more. I think we have an ability to share and learn with each other. And you're not going to do that unless you have trust, because at the end of the day, collaboration, how do I trust the information that you're giving me? As I said before, I think there's 3 buckets. I think there's people component, there's a people component, I think there's a business model innovation process component, and there's a technology component. And all 3 of those need to be integrated in order for what I'm describing to change societal from one which is isolated, no creativity, limited innovation, limited productivity, to one that is open and one that has high growth, positivity, high energy, high performance within an organization. And I know we had coffee and we talked about one of my favorite PhDs on the subject, which is Carol Dweck. I just love Carol Dweck. But she was the first person in the world from Stanford to translate really what neuroscience and psychology does within the organization. But if you look at her philosophy around high growth organizations versus low growth, we've really just discussed it, because you've got low growth, toxic, narcissic little cults working together and not working as an overall team, and not understanding, more importantly, that if you have a strong team, you have win-win. Actually, what you bring at that point is passion. And Lionel Messi, talking about World Cup, Lionel Messi said very clearly, you're not going to like what you do. You got to love what you do. And if you love what you do, you won't work another day in your life, because you're driving a team to desire and growth. But you've got to love it, right? And I get out of my bed every day of the morning with passion, because I love what I do. For me, this is not a career. This is my life. There's a difference. But high growth is the opposite. It's trust. It's high growth. It's team orientation. Okay? It's working together to achieve that one overall goal. Together. There's no silos of distaste, discomfort. There is that openness and transparency, Hurricane, that you talked about before. So now we're taking the concept to reality. Joe.
I'm listening to you, Jeff, but it's amazing, because it's like it's a full range of things that all have to come together in order for really
Yeah,
this psychology to take effect, right? The idea is that you talk about empathy, you talk about passion. I mean, first of all, passion is a big deal. If you don't like what you do,
yeah,
you're not gonna deliver anything. I mean, if you're miserable, all you bring in is negativity. Your vibe
of
is
course,
wrong, your frequency is wrong, everything. Your outputs are gonna be out. Your vision, and outlook in the world is gonna be wrong, and therefore you're gonna be
100%.
miserable. And people are gonna read through it, or especially if you're in a position of again talking about leadership, as you said. I mean, the concept of the future and the concept of the Crucible Leader, your concept as IBM Group, it's an interesting because that is really what's needed. The idea is that we want to make sure that we're looking ahead, we're seeing things. But if you have a bunch of people that are not misaligned, I mean they're misaligned, they are not passionate about stuff,
Yeah,
they do not have the spirit of team. And again, there's no I in team, as we say. You're right. It's we do it together. There's no one that succeeds alone. There is no such thing. I mean, it's a team effort that makes it happen. But you're right. Also, the vision. These people have to have that. They have to see, like, we need to adapt. Also, that's that. You and I we talked about adaptability. It's a very big concept. If you don't have it, you're a problematic, person. You have issues. You can't deliver. Seriously, I mean, think about it. Live, you have to adapt to things. That's a powerful thing.
well, I'd just like to add on that adaptability one. I mean, Darwin obviously said it's not the strongest of species that survives; it's the one that's more adaptable to change. But look at the people that didn't want to adapt and grow versus the ones that have stand still, and they've left them behind. And no one has regretted making the change after the event because it's life growth. You're on your life growth path.
Well, Jeff, I mean, you said about, like, here, for example, we take the example of the UAE right now. I mean, with all the events that happened, I mean, they adapted very quickly. That's one thing that is awesome about how they adapt to the situation, they deal with the situation, they apply to the situation, they make things happen. And that's actually the way to run, operations, to run
Yeah.
whether it's a country, a company, and so on. Time. I mean, right now we're in the time of AI. I mean, there are people that are still like, you and I had this discussion of companies that are still kind of like, demanding to have a PowerPoint presentation for an interview for an executive leadership, role. I mean, really, guys. I mean, it's a moot point at this point. Literally, we're talking about advanced technology, advanced
Yeah.
agentified AI. I mean, we're talking about more than just AI now, and we're still so. If you're not adapting to times, and you talk about generations, I mean, this is something I've experienced in the transition between you. Probably. By the way, Jeff, you kind of timed outside. You kind of gave our age group, a minute ago to the people. you said and us. I mean, we're
Hurricane. That
trying
was
to.
just a concept. That was just a concept.
I told you guys you're gonna love this discussion, right? But here's the thing, really, the concept of generations, right? So I remember coming in when the internet just became and the computers became, little stuff. So in my marketplace, we deal with seniors, and there was a phase where the seniors were not tech savvy and and computer savvy, at least between the early 90s to maybe early 2000. And so there was a lot of work that's being done in the communities, for example, and at least in the New York area that I know of, where senior centers have developed these programs for seniors to learn about how to operate the internet, to Google search, to do stuff, basic elements to transit that population that did not have the knowledge of computers into the computers. Of course, now with the advancement, with iPhones and on the tech that we have today, people it moves so fast, and so people have to adjust. Now, what I see now is that pretty much everybody is caught up, and I love that. But not everybody did. Some people are still behind schedule. Some people are antiquated in the way they approach their concepts of now concepts. This is different. I'm not talking about their concepts of leadership and business, acumen, right? They're just not applying. They're not learning fast enough. That's the thing. There's so many schools of business thoughts. I mean, you got the Harvard School, you have Stanford, you have Oxford, you have world has. And by the way, those are the prominent names, I would say. But there's business concepts all over the world. I mean, China is a huge business, country. Japan is a whole different planet on its own, and they have so much stuff going on, and we need to sometimes. And I love the idea that you traveled. You've seen the world. That's the other thing. People who don't travel, they're limited. It's like someone who is still in a cocoon all they know is the space that they have. They don't know anything what's
I
they
remember,
haven't.
I remember
They,
being in San Jose Airport. You know, it's quite small, smallish airport. All the private jets are in, and I'm waiting in the departure lounge, just and the flight's about to be board, and I go, I really don't like the United Kingdom. So I decided there was a group of them, and I really don't like the UK. I don't think it's this. So I said, well, where have you been? He said, well, Leicester Square. So I said, you've not been to the Cotswolds, you've not done Scotland, you've not done the Southwest. No, no, no. I just done Leicester Square. I'm like, well, you obviously haven't seen England. Anyhow, the whole group went quiet at that point. They did not expect, me to sort of, interject the conversation. But you're in exactly the same thing. Lots of people have a perceptive view, and it's psychology again, right? Subjective view of, oh, I would never go to Sri Lanka, or I would never go to Singapore. I'd never go to Japan. They don't really understand. If I go to Japan, I'm going to eat McDonald's. And that doesn't work. The first thing you do when you arrive in a country is you have to try the cuisine. That's culture, right? That you're breaking barriers for communication, and you're saying to them, I trust where I'm at. I'm with you, eating this food and drinking with you, and forming a bond of nuances and interests and preferences around us. And that's very clear. I mean, every country I've ever been to, and trust me, I've eaten some real interesting food in my life around the world, but it's been a part of my business life around the world, and I've enjoyed every second of it, absolutely every second of it. But what I don't tolerate is when you've never visited somewhere, to say something negative is not the right mindset. If you're going to say something negative, why don't you go and actually spend time there and actually just breathe in the experience that you have when you travel? Because when you do travel, it's imagination. It opens your mind, right? And it'll take you away from that negative, isolated mindset. Travel does that. Look, it's experiential. You're up in the sky. I mean, I've flown every plane on the planet, right? Even Concorde, when I looked outside, it was black. But when you look out and you see the clouds and you see the sun coming up or going down, and then you land in this country you've never visited before, then have a shower and honestly, if you've got a meeting in 5 hours, spend at least an hour or 2 hours walking around, just listening and seeing the people and spending time, because there's nothing terrible about travel. For me, it's one of the greatest gifts I've had in my life, to be able to meet people from different countries and spend time with them, learning from them.
Geoff, thank you. And it's funny, we started the discussion about the book, right? And we have the expression that says, never judge a book by its cover. That's what people do. They just know they heard something. They're still there's the comfort zone, right? So they're in their own bubble. They have no clue what stuff. They see it from the news, the media, whatever it is, the movies maybe, and they just kind of live with that. So their ideology is limited. So therefore they cannot comprehend what's beyond, right? And so it's always like, oh, it's ugly out there, it's scary, it's this. But once you get into these countries and you can experience people, culture, sounds, food, spices, you name it. Nature, the landscape, everything. You start like, wow. And by the way, that's the other. I love what you said. People travel to the touristy areas. That's like, again, coming to Dubai, going downtown, and you say like, I've seen the UAE. You didn't see the UAE. Now, someone can say, well, what? There's a lot of desert, but you know what? There's so many nice spots in the UAE that people don't even know about.
Look at Fujairah. Look at Fujairah.
Yes. Well, so this is another thing. This concept, we hear about it. And by the way, sorry about it again. The word concept comes up a lot with me. I conceptualize things. But here's the thing. the idea of travel, for example, right? People have these they judge already a country, right, in advance, or region. For example, many people may not want to come to the UAE or the Middle East just because it's the Middle East, because they've had horror stories about it in the movies and stuff. You here, you're a great example. What's up? You're enjoying it, you're living the life, it's cool. And many people don't realize how many expats and people from parts of the world that are living here and many people that did not even vibe, through this whole conditioning stuff that we've done in the last 6 months or 4 months. People are still here, they're doing the thing, whatever. But that's the thing, people are experiencing life, and it's really
Yeah.
not what people tell you. So don't take. I hate when someone comes to me, for example. This is actually, I just had this discussion with my wife. When someone comes and tells you something about somebody or something, they kind of ruin it for you before you experience it yourself. So you have already this preconceived notion about who and what or where. And so now what happens is you are already coming in with that bad vibe in your mind. And so you start seeing everything that is, you're trying to justify what you already know by seeing that stuff, as opposed to allowing that. And a good movie that actually I can use for this is The Last Samurai, with Tom Cruise,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
What a
look,
great movie.
yeah, I mean, he is sent to really annihilate these people, but then now he
Yeah,
gets to learn the culture, to
yeah,
see that the real life, who they were, and they were just simple people who just,
yeah.
they had their own culture and principles, and the whole system was against them for the wrong reasons, but yet he didn't realize that until he was part of it. That's the thing, you don't know until you're somewhere. So always give the benefit of doubt to whoever you're meeting, and don't
And I'd like
judge.
to say that augmented reality and all this other great stuff, it's not the same as if I looked at augmented reality and I was in the gym on my running machine and I'm running along a beach in Sri Lanka. I would rather run along the beach in Sri Lanka and then stop and have the introspection and the creativity and the vista creates those moments which you and I live for, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. Those moments I cherish, and those moments are what it's all about, So I think the ocean, you can't do that on virtual, and you're not going to have the same effect. Yeah, yeah, you don't have to go to an airport. Yes, you don't have to fly. Yes, you don't have the logistics, but that's not why you travel, right? So you know,
Well, look, I've been to islands, I've been to countries, I've been to
yes, yeah,
different customs, and I've had a lot of food. I mean, I haven't gone deep in Asia yet. I mean, this is as far as Asia I've been. So it's like Saudi,
yeah.
UAE, Jordan, this area, right? But I haven't gone to the other side. That's on my to do list. But really, I had friends who actually traveled there. I mean, they can swear that's like where it's happening. I mean, it's like you want to go there. I mean,
You
they've
want
gone
to
to
go? Yeah,
Vietnam. Yeah,
Japan
yeah,
for me was amazing. I mean, I did a Japanese international business course many years ago to try and learn about the etiquette of Japan and everything. And when I went to Japan, it just completely threw me, and it was the most surreal experience. And then when you get to the Japanese islands, wow, I really thought I was in The Last Samurai. It really did.
well, Jeff, this is an important piece. Like people sometimes they don't go deep into the land, whatever they land, they just don't go into the land. They land, they stay, they leave. They don't discover the rest of it, and that's the problem. Like I mean, again, for example, people tell me, "Oh, Casablanca, Morocco." Dude, if you've been to Casablanca, you haven't seen Morocco yet.
You
I
have
mean,
not
really.
seen it.
I mean, really, it's a fact, right? Casablanca is like any city in the world. Maybe it has one or two monuments that you can see, but you go deep dive in the mountains in the south and the north and in
Beautiful.
the plains. I
Marrakesh.
mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of cities, different flavors, different stuff, but you don't get the real, And even
No.
if you stay in a hotel, 5-star hotel, eating your cuisine, it's not the same of going into the streets, meeting the locals, and that's applicable. Like, listen, in Spain, I love Spain. I go to Spain,
I love
pretty much
Spain. The
every
mountains
time,
are
right?
amazing. Love it.
Yeah, I go. Yeah, I mean, but there's some towns, some villages in Spain,
Yeah,
dude. I
beautiful.
mean, you go there, it's
Yeah,
like these people are just living the life. Man, you see
yeah,
how people are enjoying life,
and they
like,
have
and they,
freedom. Yeah, yeah. You go to
it's like,
South America. You go to Brazil in the same way. You've got those little villages, and they're living their life. You go to now, even go to places like Africa and Nigeria, and in the same way, you got villages. And the concept you talk about, they don't even understand. They don't even have TV in some of these places. But it's wow. It's a when I started doing that kind of travel with business, that was life changing for me. It was completely life changing. In every
well,
respect.
again, but that's the thing. Like when you meet the people, you understand them, you understand their cultures. You can be a little bit more. First of all, you respect them better.
Yeah,
You appreciate them better, and you get to have a sense sometimes of all the stuff that you have or may not have, because you
yeah,
realize that you might have a lot, financial, maybe whatever, but you don't have maybe the culture, maybe you don't have the freedom, maybe you don't have these
Yeah,
the stress-free life. Some people are simple lives out there, and yet they're having a better life than
they're
most of the
happy.
people that are. They're
Yeah,
very
they're
happy,
happy.
and actually, that's like a huge thing. How many of us, you talk about passion? I mean, we're not passionate because we're not happy sometimes, because we're stressed, because we do things that we're not. I mean, talking, this is a business show. How many people are in business where they're not happy, or working for a
Yeah.
company and they hate the company, they just do
Look,
it for the
you go
paycheck.
into Michelin star restaurants and you can hear couples fighting because the restaurant didn't have a balsamica vinegar that was appropriate for her salad, and she thinks she's got a third world problem, or he thinks he's got a third world problem. And why not just enjoy the moment? Who cares whether it's balsamica or whether it's olive oil from Greece or Italy or Tunisia or wherever, right? Just enjoy the moment. Yeah,
Yeah,
enjoy
again,
the
I mean,
moment. Mm.
I love what you said. There's, I love this with nature.
Yeah,
All
100%.
folks, all you have to do is step out into nature, and
And
the
it
world.
it it talks to you.
That's it.
The energy absolutely talks to you and energizes you.
And by the way, Jeff, I love when you said the Concorde. And by the way, some people, maybe not clear. Concorde is no longer in effect, and they may bring it back. This was the supersonic flight from Paris to New York, or London to New York.
London, New York,
Not
yeah.
London, New York. So I think they had two, because it was I guess a joint
BA,
venture.
actually, British Airways had 14 Concords. Mm,
Oh, okay. Well,
14.
because I know
Because
they had two.
during the
Yeah.
winter, they do Barbados as well. Yeah.
Oh, they did. I didn't know that.
Mm,
But
yeah.
again, the idea of you flying in the Concorde. I mean, you're talking
Yeah.
about HEC Black, because you're already way up there. It goes higher than the
Yeah.
regular flight.
60,000 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. So think about it, folks. At 60,000 feet, what do you see? It's a little tiny. You can't see anything that is visible on land or sea. You just see blue and just basically just a landmass. That's it. There's no humans. There's no buildings. No nothing. And you see the stars up there, and you'd be like, "Whoa, beautiful!" Maybe the moon, if you're actually passing through. It's that kind of thing. So appreciate things for what it is, and we can say trust the process.
We could say
But that
trust. I think you've gone to a point there, though, that if I look at my balcony at first thing in the morning, I'll watch sunrise, and then I'll watch sunset, and so that's free, by the way. And that is the time that you can actually have a cup of coffee and you can have that introspection. But you got to take the time. We try and take the stress out of it, because it's really important that you create those moments. Carl Honor will tell you the same. Take those moments, because that is the start of your day. So the next interaction that you have after that, when you put the suit on, you go to the meeting, is going to be a positive one. And what do you want from those meetings? Collaboration. You want positivity. You want to create things. You want to do things together. But you got to have the right mindset in order to do it, right? It's no point just being angry with the world when you can't stop what's going to happen. What's going to happen is going to happen. But you need to create those memories. And those memories, I think, will stay with you forever. I mean, I've got memories that I'll never forget, in life.
Oh, listen, memories is what you keep with you, right? And
Always.
experiences, because those experiences, they shape you. Listen, Jeff, I think we're past the hour here. So the hour went fast. That I think we're barely touched on the psychology. See, now I'll get it right. The psychology of
Psychology.
trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go. See, I listen. The psychology of trust, and frankly, it's this is like just touching the surface here. We haven't even gone further into it, and I'm sure we're going to bring this back into the next shows that we will have, amongst other concepts. I mean, we talked about or at least refer to a few concepts here, or psychologies, if as Jeff would refer to. Maybe not. Some of them will be real concepts or definitions. We'll figure that out as we go with these topics. But the idea is that you see it. This is our first just launch and pilot show, but a lot of nuggets, and trust me, this is just the beginning. We're gonna have some fun with this. There's so much that we can share, in terms of valuable stuff. Not critics, not stuff, but just based on experience, lifetime experiences here. Again, you're talking about 2/4 of a century. That's quite a bit, and It's amazing what you can, and you have to appreciate sometimes, not only because some people can have 40 years, but it's the diversity of the experiences that we've had and the different roles and places we've been and so on and so forth that gives us a little bit more to present. And frankly, there's that concept, folks. Knowledge is supposed to be shared, and that's what we're doing here. We're not holding. I think one of the things that you and I, Jeff, we spoke about when we had our first coffee, was the idea of, you're writing books, because you're sharing knowledge that is going to be
100%.
available
Yeah.
for centuries to come. As long as books exist, those pieces of information will be a legacy, and that's really it. So many people can go through this world with zero impact, and I love what you said earlier. You said you like impact, and impact is important, and that's what we're trying to do as well. So from the media company, from my shows to the show, the work that Jeff does on with his team in IBM, it's an interesting world, and again in the corporate world, I think you bring in a whole diversified version of what businesses should be looking for in terms of leadership, strategy, tactic, vision, you name it, planning, and that's a whole thing. So for that purpose as well, I mean, this is important. So if you're watching the show and you're a business, I guess decision maker, that we have that opportunity to maybe engage with the Crucible Leader program and see what that looks like for you. Anything you want to add to that, Jeff?
Yeah, look, I am a global leading trust ambassador. And you're quite correct. I've written about trust for many years. I've been on TV, had mainstream media interviews, radio interviews. It's so important that when Stephen Covey wrote his first book, The Speed of Trust, in 1975, you could create instant trust. And I've always said, and I know we share the same principle, Hurricane, that you have my trust until you break it, right? And the fact is, as a society, if we were to trust more and not keep looking at our Instagram pages and our TikTok pages and our Facebook pages, and actually we looked at the human experience and we create trusted moments with each other, we could correct some of the biggest problems in the world today. And trust me, the biggest problems in the world today is not technology, it's trust. And Tom Peters said that. So I plead to everyone, and my next book that I'm writing at the moment is called Infinite Trust, because I know that if we can trust more, we can actually fix the problems in the world, we can create bigger impact, but more importantly, we have the relationships that can actually make transactions happen, marriage happen, not divorce, marriage. And we can look at things like business and business associations and ecosystems and supply chains and prosperity and wealth is attached to this. So if we can only just change mindsets and we can just change attitudinal, we can create something which holistically I will campaign until the very day that I pass from the earth plane. But it's we must trust, we trust.
I love it. I mean, I don't want to top that one, but else, that's pretty solid stuff, and you're right. It's the way to go. I mean, I believe one thing, Jeff, if you don't mind, is that there's only two kinds of people on this planet. There's the good and the bad, and I believe that the good is better than the bad. There's 99%, I would say, of good, and there's that 1% that is, I guess, needs some work to become part of the bigger 99%. Maybe I'm optimistic, and I like to keep an optimistic, version of life. That's just how I am, and frankly, that's all. Is that you're right? Trust is to be broken. You give it unconditionally, and if someone breaks it, that's when you actually remove. And yes, do we have to be naive about it? No. Do we have to be cautious about it? Yes. But again, you didn't do anything to me, wrong. I'm gonna trust you until you prove otherwise, and that's really what it is. And so you're right, and just keep away from negativity, folks. Positivity is a power. And if you can use that to your advantage, doesn't matter what you do, it will always be righteous to you. I mean, correct, Jeff? I mean, I think that's
100%. I mean, we live in Dubai and we work in Dubai, and the Sheikh Mansour's philosophy was to build an economy around inspired truth and positivity, and that's what he's done. I mean, if you look at what's happened here in the last 50 years, this is a visual physical experience of how positivity can change you and change life and change business.
Well, there you have it, folks. That was your first episode of the Crucible Leader podcast with Geoff.
Thank you.
Geoff, thank you, man. This is cool. I mean, listen, we've met. We had a different conversations about business and other things, and then this came out of the discussion as an opportunity because we saw the value that can be here. And again, folks, there's a lot to learn from Geoff. I'm learning from him. I mean, he certainly has an excellent background and that's the thing. We learn every day, folks, and you got to take, whatever you can to make yourself better. And so, Geoff, thank you for contributing to my knowledge library here.
It's an absolute pleasure. And like, I've learned from you and like I said, I want to dig more into the martial arts. So hopefully next time.
Don't get me started, bro. I mean, listen, that's like I could do shows about that thing. I mean, I enjoy it. Yeah. And it is that we could talk about the principles of martial arts as part of business as well. And then
yeah, I think we should. I love that.
And Geoff, this is what the show is about. It's an open discussion, folks. Yeah. This is not pre-planned. We did not have a script to this. And that's exactly what it's going to be. Every episode will have that, so you'll have that element of surprise. And yes, also I want to say this, folks, you can certainly we will have these eventually in live format, and so you can actually interact with us, in person by joining us on the feed or sending us your chats on Instagram or YouTube, and we'll be able to bring that up as questions, statements, and interjections, and we can have some fun with that as well. So yes, and this will be airing pretty much across all platforms, social media platforms and visual platforms, as well as iHealthRadio and the podcast platforms, whatever you get your podcast at, Spotify, Apple, whatever. We're in over 50 directories, as you already know, so this is going to be all over the map. Take it for its word, download it, listen to it, share it. There's a lot of stuff here that can apply to real life, business life, and so on and so forth. Any final words of wisdom, Geoff, you want to close with today?
No, I've said enough concepts and psychology.
Thank you for that. I love that. That's the final push. I just got knocked out.
I guess when I look at my whole life to date, there's a motto that I've had through my life, and it's irrespective of the adversity in your life, what's going on, never, never, never give up on the dream. Because I think that as soon as you take your eyes off laser focus of where, and more importantly, why you want to be somewhere, you kind of give up, and you should never give up. I think that love, passion, and focus are critical to achieving the things that you want to in life. And life's as its ups and downs, but never, never give up.
That's it, folks. This is the end of our show. Never give up. We'll see you at the next one of the Crucible Leader podcast with your co-host, Hurricane H, and of course, the other co-host, Geoff Hudson-Searle.
Psychology. There we go.
All right. Well, listen. We have a tradition. So we do it in the other show where we try to say at the same time. The Crucible Leader. Maybe we'll test that out next time. And This is the Crucible Leader, and we'll close with that. That'll be fun. But anyway,
it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from you.
That's it. All right, folks. That's it. Have a great one. We'll be talking soon. Bye for now.